I'm going to tell you something that took me 72 years to figure out, and most of it I already knew as a child in Osaka. I just forgot. Or maybe I let the supermarket shelves convince me I'd forgotten wrong. Let me start there. My mother never owned a bottle of fabric softener. Neither did my grandmother. Their towels lasted decades. Their clothes held their shape, their color, their function. I grew up thinking this was just how things were. That careful, simple washing was the natural order. Then I moved overseas in my late 20s, England first, then a longer life built elsewhere. And somewhere in that transition between building a career, raising a family, trying to fit into a new country, I started buying what everyone around me was buying: fabric softener, scented beads, dryer sheets, the whole shelf. It felt normal because everyone was doing it. That is exactly how it works. That is exactly how they want it to work. For nearly 40 years, I washed my clothes the Western way and never questioned it. My towels got stiff, then useless. I replaced them. My washing machine developed a smell I couldn't get rid of. I assumed that was just what machines did. My clothes wore out faster than I expected. I blamed cheap fabric. I blamed everything except the bottle I was pouring in every single wash. Here is what I want you to understand before I tell you the rest. The fabric softener industry knows exactly what their product does to your clothes. They've always known, and they keep selling it with images of soft babies and mountain breezes and happy families because you keep buying it. That's the entire arrangement. Japan disrupted that arrangement, and I only remembered why when I went back. I returned to Osaka at 63. Family reasons first, but I stayed longer than I planned. I stayed because something happened to me there that I can only describe as waking up. I was visiting my cousin, Fumiko. She's 2 years younger than me, has this quiet apartment near Namba, immaculately kept, and I noticed something when she showed me her laundry area. 3 things on the shelf: 1 bottle of simple detergent, white vinegar, baking soda. That was it. No fabric softener. No specialty products, no collection of bottles with complicated promises on the label. I asked her about it. She looked at me like I'd asked something strange. Softener ruins the fabric, she said, just like that. Not as an opinion, as a fact she'd always known and couldn't imagine disputing. I thought of my grandmother, my mother, their towels, and I felt something shift. Let me give you the actual science, because this is the part they really don't want printed on the front of the bottle. Fabric softener works by coating your clothes in a layer of chemical compounds, basically a fatty film that sits on the fiber and creates that slippery, soft feeling. That feeling isn't your clothes. That feeling is a chemical residue, and that residue causes serious cumulative damage. Take towels. Towels work through capillary absorption. The cotton fibers have microscopic structures that pull water in. Fabric softener coats those fibers with hydrophobic compounds that repel water. You are, quite literally, waterproofing your towels. After a few months, your towels aren't drying you. They're pushing water around your skin. This isn't the towel's fault. You did this. We did this. I did this for almost 4 decades. Sportswear and technical fabrics are worse. Those running shirts with moisture-wicking technology, the ones with microscopic channels designed to pull sweat away from your skin. Fabric softener seals those channels. You pay for the engineering, then you destroy it with a product that costs almost nothing and does nothing useful in return. Japanese consumers figured this out almost immediately when softener was aggressively marketed there in the 1990s. The word spread fast. This ruins your clothes. No campaign could overcome that. And your washing machine. The chemical film doesn't stay on your clothes. It builds up in the drum, the hoses, the rubber seals. It creates the perfect environment for mold and bacteria. That persistent musty smell your machine develops, that's the softener. Repair technicians see it constantly and almost never say it loudly enough. When I understood all this, sitting at Fumiko's kitchen table in Osaka, doing the math on 40 years of laundry, I felt something that was almost grief. Not dramatic grief, just the quiet ache of realizing you were deceived for a very long time and that you let it happen because everyone else was being deceived too. My grandmother's towels lasted 30 years. Mine lasted 18 months. Before I go any further, I want to tell you about something I wrote. After I came back from Osaka that trip, I started keeping notes. Not to publish, just to process. What I was remembering about how I was raised. What I was unlearning about how I'd been living. The gap between those two things was painful to look at directly, but also clarifying in a way I needed. Those notes became a small book. I called it What My Grandmother Knew, because that's what it really is. Things she practiced every day in her home in Osaka that I abandoned for 40 years and spent the last decade recovering. One of the chapters is about exactly this: laundry, fabric, the chemicals we were sold as necessities, and the simpler things that actually work. But it's also about why we stopped trusting the knowledge we grew up with, why we let shelves full of colorful bottles override what our hands already knew. It's in the pinned comment below this video. I've heard from people who tell me it changed something for them. Rosemary in Scotland said she read it and finally understood why her mother's linens were still perfect after 50 years. Henrik from Sweden tried the methods with his elderly father and said it was the first time in years the house felt like it was being cared for properly. Carol in New Zealand wrote to me. She said she cried reading it, which she didn't expect from a book about housekeeping. But I think it's not really just about housekeeping. It's there if you want it. Now let me tell you what to actually do. Fumiko's method is what I now use. It is almost insultingly simple, which is, I think, why we resist believing it. White vinegar replaces fabric softener entirely. Half a cup in the softener compartment. That's it. It softens fabric naturally by dissolving detergent residue left in the fibers. It also disinfects, and this is the question everyone asks. No, your clothes don't smell like vinegar. The smell evaporates completely during the wash and dry cycle. Your clothes smell like nothing, which is exactly what clean clothes should smell like. Not a laboratory approximation of a meadow. Nothing. Baking soda goes in with the detergent, a tablespoon. It softens the water, which makes the detergent work more efficiently. It neutralizes odors at the source rather than covering them. That is the entire system. Vinegar and baking soda. Combined cost, almost nothing. These are not alternative wellness products or health food store specialties. You can buy both in any supermarket in large quantities for a fraction of what you spend on a single bottle of softener. I came back from Osaka and went straight to my laundry cupboard. I had premium fabric softener, scented beads, 2 kinds of specialist wool wash. I'd been spending 15, sometimes 20 euros a month on laundry products. I gave what was left to a neighbor and bought a large bottle of white vinegar and a box of baking soda. What happened in the first month, my towels, which I had accepted as permanently mediocre, started absorbing water again. Not a little. Properly. The fibers came back. I could feel it. My washing machine stopped smelling. I'd had that low-level dampness for years. It was gone within 3 weeks. My clothes felt different, cleaner, in a way I'm struggling to describe. Not softer in the slippery chemical sense. Cleaner, like the fabric could breathe. My daughter visited at the end of that month. She picked up a hand towel in the bathroom and said, "When did you get new towels?" I hadn't. Those were the same towels I'd had for 2 years, slowly dying under fabric softener, and now, finally, recovering. Here is what moved me most, though, and this is the part I didn't expect. I have a wool coat I've had for 15 years. Good wool, well made, but I'd noticed it had lost some of its shape and warmth. I washed it 3 times with vinegar, no softener, and hung it to dry in the shade, as my grandmother always dried wool. And the coat. I want to say it came back. That sounds dramatic. But it changed. The fiber responded. Something that had been compressed and coated woke up. I thought about how many things in my home were in the same state, quietly damaged by what I'd been told was care. The industry spends enormously on making you feel like fabric softener is a natural part of doing laundry. The fresh linen smell they've created in a laboratory has become so associated with cleanliness that real clean, which has no smell, now feels wrong to people, incomplete, like something's missing. Nothing is missing. That sensation of wrongness is just an absence of chemical perfume. You've been trained to interpret the presence of chemicals as the presence of cleanliness. They are opposite things. Technical fabric manufacturers write, "Do not use fabric softener" on their labels. It's there, in small print, but there. The instruction has always been there. We ignore it because the habit runs deeper than the label. Japanese consumers are pragmatic in a way I find increasingly rare. They tried the product, they saw what it did to their clothes, and they stopped buying it. Not because of ideology, because it didn't work. The collective word of mouth was simply stronger than the marketing budget. We can do the same thing. We just have to actually look at what's happening to our laundry. One more thing Fumiko told me, and I've thought about it many times since. She said, "If you can't say exactly what something is doing that's useful, question whether you need it." That's it. That's the whole framework. It's not anti-technology. Fumiko has a washing machine with more settings than I know what to do with. It's not nostalgia. It's just the question. What is this actually doing? Fabric softener honestly answered, coating your clothes in chemicals, degrading their function, building up in your machine, costing you money every month. That is what it's doing. Precisely that and nothing useful beyond it. White vinegar, dissolving detergent residue, naturally softening fiber, disinfecting, leaving no trace. Cost, almost nothing. Baking soda, improving detergent efficacy, neutralizing odor, softening water. Cost, almost nothing. My grandmother knew this. Her grandmother knew this. Somewhere between their kitchen in Osaka and a supermarket shelf in a Western country, I forgot it. I'm not forgetting it again. If you try this, and I genuinely hope you do, I'd love to hear what you notice. The towels especially. Give it 3 weeks. Don't go back to softener in the middle. Give the fibers time to clear. And if you want to read more about what I've been recovering from my Japanese upbringing, the practical daily things that changed my home and my life after 60, what my grandmother knew is pinned in the comment below. It's where this all lives together. Take care of your things. They'll last much longer than you think. And tu if you stop softening them.